There comes a moment, not in the calendar of time, but in the eternity of awareness, when the soul stirs beneath the surface of habitual thought and asks a simple, sacred question. What if I am not these thoughts I think? What if the life I'm living is not determined by the world, but by the lens through which I see it? In that moment, the veil lifts. And you begin to realize that every experience, every fear, every longing has been filtered not through truth, but through thought. And thought, my dear friend, is not a reflection of reality. It is a creation of it. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. The witness, the awareness, the still presence that has remained unchanged while your thoughts have changed 1,000 times. When you begin to see this, not just with your mind, but with your soul, you step into the sacred power that has always been yours, the power to choose again, to choose differently, to think from love instead of fear, to perceive from wholeness instead of lack, to align your inner state with the eternal truth rather than the temporary noise of the world. Because you see, thought is not just something that happens, it is something that forms. It shapes your perception, which in turn gives birth to your experience. The thought, I am not enough, does not remain a quiet sentence inside your mind. It echoes into your emotions, colors your relationships, affects the way you walk into a room, the way you speak your name, the way you hold or withhold your love. And so when you change your thoughts, you don't just change your mood, you change your life. But let us be clear, this is not about forcing new affirmations over old wounds. This is not about covering pain with positivity. This is about seeing that the original wound was not inflicted by the world, it was inflicted by a thought you believed to be true. And what is belief if not thought, repeated, enshrined, rehearsed until it becomes invisible? This is the beginning of liberation, when you stop trying to rearrange the outer world and begin to rearrange the inner lens through which you view it. As the Tao Te Ching reminds us, if you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. But how do you correct your mind? Not by war, not by force, but by presence, by attention, by stillness. You do not need to argue with your old thoughts. You need only to observe them without identification, and in the light of your awareness, they begin to dissolve, like shadows in the Sunday. You are not here to control your life. You are here to align with its deeper rhythm. And that rhythm is not chaotic. It is intelligent. It is divine. It is the same force that orchestrates galaxies and blooms flowers without needing your effort. Your only real task is to tune your mind to the frequency of this intelligence, to stop thinking from fear and start listening from love, to stop building your future from the ruins of your past and instead begin to create from the wholeness of the now. When you change your thoughts, you change your vibrational field. You shift your frequency, and everything that is meant for you, peace, love, abundance, exists at a different vibration than fear, guilt, and scarcity. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is shaped moment to moment by the thoughts you host. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are a powerful creator, not through effort, but through alignment. The thoughts you think are not random, they are habitual, conditioned. They are the echoes of a collective story, a family story, a personal story. But none of these stories are the truth of your being. They are interpretations, temporary garments. And the moment you begin to see this, you are no longer a prisoner of your past. You are free. Free to think new thoughts, free to release the narratives that no longer serve you, free to say, that story ends here. And in doing so, you do not just liberate yourself, you liberate everyone who came before you and everyone who will come after. Because when one soul remembers its power to choose, to see, to think with the eyes of love, that remembrance ripples through the fabric of humanity like a silent blessing. There is no thought more powerful than, I am already whole. There is no perception more healing than nothing is missing. And there is no belief more transformative than, love is who I am. Thus, when you begin to live from this, knowing not as a concept but as a felt experience, your outer world begins to shift to reflect the truth within. You stop searching for love because you become it. You stop chasing success because you realize that fulfillment is not a destination, it is a frequency you carry into everything you do. You stop fighting with life and you begin to dance with it, flow with it, trust it. And that trust is born from a deeper realization that your thoughts are not rulers, they are servants, they are tools. And when you no longer believe everything you think, a space opens up, a quiet, sacred space where wisdom can enter. This space is the doorway to your highest self. And your highest self does not speak in fear, it does not shame, it does not rush, it does not demand perfection, it whispers, it gently guides. It reminds you that the universe is not outside of you, it is within. And it responds not to the noise of your mind, but to the clarity of your being. So if you want to change your life, begin not with the world, begin with your thoughts. Question them, greet them with love, but no longer bow to them. Invite in new ones, thoughts that align with truth, with presence, with divinity, and then live them, not by force, but by being. Let your life be a reflection of the love you choose to think. Let your relationships be mirrors of the peace you choose to see. Let your days unfold not from habit, but from awareness. You are not here to think like everyone else. You are here to remember a deeper way, a way that honors the stillness between words, a way that listens more than it speaks, a way that trusts that when your thoughts align with truth, the entire universe conspires to support you. You are not your thoughts, but your thoughts are the brushstrokes on the canvas of your life. And today, you hold the brush. To change your thoughts is to reclaim authorship of your life, not as a frantic scribbler trying to rewrite the past, but as a conscious scribe, aware that each moment is a blank page, each choice a fresh stanza, and each intention a sacred pen stroke guided by the hand of the infinite. But to write with the hand of the infinite, you must quiet the trembling of fear. You must soften the grip of expectation. You must lay down the armor you forged in the fires of doubt and trust that what emerges from stillness is wiser than what arises from struggle. The ego will resist this, of course. It will insist that thinking harder, pushing more, controlling tighter is the path to safety. But safety is not the same as freedom. And the soul was never born for safety. It was born to remember itself as boundless, eternal, free. Your thoughts are like winds. And if you live unconsciously, you are a leaf at the mercy of every gust. But when you awaken, you become the sky itself, vast, steady, unshaken by the changing air. You begin to notice not just what you think, but who is doing the thinking. And in that noticing, a space opens, not a void, but a sanctuary, a place where silence speaks louder than anxiety, where intuition whispers more clearly than logic, where the heart, unburdened by the mind's noise, can rise and lead. This is the holy reversal the mystics speak of when you stop asking, how do I control my thoughts, and begin to wonder, who is the one aware of them? That awareness is not a product of thought. It is the field in which thought appears. And that field is you, not the you they named, not the identity you were taught to polish, but the deeper you, the watcher, the witness, the timeless flame that has never dimmed, only forgotten its brilliance beneath layers of borrowed beliefs. And it is here in this sacred awareness that new thoughts are born not from programming, but from presence, not from reaction, but from revelation. Thoughts like, I am not broken, I am becoming. Thoughts like, the moment is not my enemy, it is my teacher. Thoughts like, the universe is not outside me, it breathes through me. These thoughts are not merely words, they are frequencies, each one a tuning fork calling you back to resonance with the divine. And the more you dwell in this resonance, the less you need to fix your life, because you begin to see that nothing was ever truly broken, only misperceived, only misunderstood through the lens of fear. What is anxiety but faith misdirected? Faith that things will go wrong. What is guilt but love twisted into self-punishment? What is shame but the forgetting of your inherent worth? When you change the thought, you change the lens. And when you change the lens, the entire landscape of your life is transfigured. Not because the mountains have moved, but because you now see them as invitations to rise rather than obstacles to endure. This is the quiet miracle of inner alchemy. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It happens in the invisible chambers of the heart, where one thought is replaced with another, a thought of love, a thought of unity, a thought born not from the mind, but from the soul. And as this new thought settles in, it begins to shape a new reality. People speak to you differently, not because they've changed, but because you no longer expect attack. Circumstances feel lighter, not because they are easier, but because you meet them without resistance. Time no longer feels like an enemy, but like a flowing river you finally stop swimming against. You begin to see your life not as a series of problems to solve, but as a canvas to express the divine through. Each moment becomes a brush dipped in eternity, painting beauty from the inside out. And slowly or suddenly you realize that you are not here to accumulate experiences, you are here to wake up through them. To see that the goal was never to get somewhere, but to see more clearly where you already are. In the light of this realization, even your old wounds soften. You stop cursing your past and start blessing it, not because pain is good, but because pain cracked open the shell that kept your light hidden. And now, through the fissures, you shine. This is what it means to change your thoughts, to shift from resistance to reverence, from judgment to curiosity, from separation to sacredness. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But what is this moment showing me about what I've believed? And then, with gentleness, always with gentleness, you allow the belief to be questioned, to be touched by the light of truth, to be seen not as who you are, but as what you once needed to survive. Because every limiting thought was once a protection. Every fearful belief was a shelter. And now you are ready to leave the shelter. You are ready to step out from behind the old walls and feel the wind of truth on your skin. You are ready not to become someone new, but to think as the one you've always been. And who you are is peace. Peace is not a distant summit you must strive to reach. It is the ground you already stand upon, if only you would look down and notice it. It is not in the next chapter, the next job, the next partner, the next version of yourself. It is in this breath, this heartbeat, this now. And thought is the gatekeeper of peace. Each thought either opens the door to it or bars the way. The thought that says, I am behind, that is a closed gate. But the thought that whispers, I am right where I need to be, that is the gate swinging open to stillness. The thought that declares, I must earn love, binds the soul in chains. But the thought that gently affirms, I am love, that breaks every chain. You see, thought is not neutral. It is creative. It is magnetic. Every thought vibrates at a certain frequency, and your life arranges itself around the frequency you most consistently dwell in. Not what you hope for, not what you say aloud, but what you truly, quietly believe. And here's the miracle hidden in plain sight. You can choose again, right now. You can breathe differently. You can see differently. You can think differently. You can exchange the thought of separation for the truth of oneness. You can lay down the belief of not enough and pick up the knowing that you are the very essence of enough. You can turn every fearful story into a doorway for light to enter, but only if you are willing to see, to truly see, not with the eyes of judgment, not with the reflex of reaction, but with the gaze of stillness, with the open eyes of the soul. This is not the work of striving, it is the art of surrender. Because truth is not something you achieve, it is something you uncover. It is what remains when the noise quiets, when the mind bows in humility, when the ego steps aside and the eternal enters. And in that entrance, the thoughts begin to shift on their own, like leaves gently blown by the breath of spirit. You don't have to control them, you only have to stop identifying with them. Because you are not the thoughts that say, I'll never heal. You are the awareness that has already outlived that pain. You are not the voice that says it's too late. You are the eternal being to whom time is merely a costume. You are not the belief that insists, I am broken. You are the wholeness beneath it, patiently waiting to be remembered. And what you remember, you re-become, not as a performance, not as a projection, but as presence, quiet, grounded, divine. This is the secret the sages spoke of, that nothing outside you needs to change for you to be free. Only your relationship to thought, only your loyalty to fear, only your attachment to the illusions you were handed before you knew how to question them. And when you begin to loosen your grip on those illusions, when you begin to release the death grip on being right, being wounded, being incomplete, something sacred happens. You begin to float, not in detachment but in trust, not above life but deeply within it, as if every blade of grass is now whispering to you, welcome home. This floating is the return of innocence, the return of original vision, the return of a mind unclouded by survival and a heart unclenched by pain. You begin to think not for protection but for creation, not to defend but to extend, not to prove but to bless. And in this blessing, your thoughts become prayers, your words become healing, your presence becomes a temple. Because when your thoughts align with truth, you no longer carry your light, you become it. You are no longer a seeker wandering the forest of desire. You are the forest itself, rooted, alive, complete. You no longer ask, what must I do to be worthy? you ask, what can I think today that will remind me I always have been? And in that question, the journey begins again, not as a race, but as a remembering. Not as a struggle, but as a song. Not as a battle to win, but as a path to walk with bare feet, open eyes, and a mind made still by grace. There is a weight we carry that no one sees. It is not in our hands, but in our thoughts. Not on our backs, but behind our eyes, in the folds of memory, in the echoes of moments we couldn't change. It is the past. Not the past itself, but the thoughts we've wrapped around it, the conclusions we drew, the meanings we assigned, the invisible contracts we made with pain, believing we had to earn our release through guilt, through sorrow, through shame. But the soul does not live in the past. It touches it only to retrieve the light that was left behind in the shadows. It visits not to relive, but to reclaim, not to suffer again, but to gather every broken piece and whisper, even this is holy. And yet the mind clings. It replays the scene. It reopens the wound. It insists that unless we suffer enough, we will not be redeemed. But suffering is not the currency of healing. Presence is. The past cannot bind you unless you keep thinking it with the same thoughts, unless you keep speaking it with the same pain, unless you keep living it as though it were still now. But it is not now. Now is unscripted. Now is untainted. Now is the open sky. And the thoughts you choose now, they are your wings. The soul does not crave repetition. It craves release. The soul aches not to rewrite the past, but to outgrow it, to become so fully anchored in truth that the old wounds no longer define the shape of your being. But to do this, you must be willing to see the past not as your identity, but as your initiation. Not as a life sentence, but as a sacred doorway through which you pass, bruised but not broken, in order to become who you now have the power to be. When you look upon your past with the eyes of ego, you see betrayal, failure, and justice. But when you look with the eyes of the soul, you see invitations, mirrors, messages. Teachers disguised as hardship. This shift in vision is not denial. It is transcendence. It is choosing to believe that life is not happening against you, but through you, and always, always for your awakening. And when you see this, truly see this, you stop clinging to the pain as proof that it mattered. You realize that your freedom is not in the memory, but in your willingness to release the meaning that made you small. You stop asking, why did it happen? And start asking, what thought am I still carrying from it that is no longer true? Because the wound is not just what occurred, it is the belief that arose from it. The belief that you are unworthy, that you are unsafe, that you are damaged, that love is conditional, that joy must be earned. But none of these thoughts are you. They are echoes. And you are not an echo. You are the stillness before the sound. You are not the grief. You are the space that held it. You are not the sorrow. You are the strength that carried it. And now, you can set it down. Not because the past didn't matter, but because it no longer needs to dictate who you are. You can honor what happened without inhabiting it. You can bless the journey without dragging its weight through every doorway of your life. You can, in this holy moment, say, this story ends with me. And in saying it, you are not rejecting your past, you are redeeming it. You are rewriting the agreement, not with more pain, but with more truth. You are saying to the wounded child within, you are safe now. You are whispering to the forgotten self, you are always worthy. You are reminding the deepest part of your being that freedom is not found in the next chapter, it is found in letting go of the page you've been rereading for years. The soul doesn't want to forget the past. It wants to free it. It wants to cleanse it in the river of presence, to bathe it in the light of understanding, to carry forward only what serves love, and to release the rest like smoke rising from a sacred fire. This is the fire you now tend, the fire of awareness, the fire of new thought, the fire of conscious liberation. And as it burns away the remnants of false belief, what remains is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. The space to be new, to begin again. To speak your name not as a repetition of history, but as a declaration of truth. You are not here to be a prisoner of memory. You are here to be the living proof that love outlives pain, that truth outshines story, that the soul can rise from anything, not with bitterness, but with grace. And so the thoughts you think now, these are your resurrection. Each one a small act of freedom, each one a step into light. And the light is you. You have not come this far to remain in the waiting room of your own awakening. You have not endured all you've endured just to survive a little more elegantly. You are not here to rehearse your wounds, nor to perfect the armor you learn to wear. You are here to remember, to awaken, to embody the truth that has never left you, only waited patiently beneath the noise. There is a still place within you that has never been broken, not by betrayal, not by loss, not even by the thoughts you once mistook for truth. That place, that sacred center, is untouched by time, unmarred by story, and invincibly whole. And now you are beginning to live from it. With every breath, you are dissolving the veil. With every new thought chosen in love, you are weaving the threads of a new reality, not out there, but in here. And as the inner shifts, so too must the outer. For the world can only reflect the frequency you hold. And when your frequency becomes truth, peace, presence, when your thoughts are soaked in remembrance, not fear, then even chaos bows to your calm. Even storms soften at your stillness. Because your being itself becomes a sanctuary, a temple not built of stone but of soul. And this is not theory. This is not philosophy etched in distant books. This is a lived fire, a radiant knowing, a light that grows from within and spills over not in flashes but in presence, in silence, in being. There is no need to shout when you are truth. There is no need to prove when you are peace. There is no need to chase when you are aligned. This is what liberation feels like. Not the absence of challenge, but the absence of resistance to it. Not the removal of pain, but the removal of identity with it. Not the fixing of life, but the flowing with it. Like a river that has finally stopped trying to reverse itself and now cascades freely toward the sea, you are remembering that surrender is not the end of your strength, it is the beginning of your power. And that power is soft, it is subtle, it is sacred. It is the power to forgive when your thoughts demand vengeance. It is the power to bless when your story would justify bitterness. It is the power to hold space for beauty even in the ruins. Because the soul does not react, it responds. And its response is always love. Not sentimental love, not conditional love, but the unshakable, all-seeing, all-allowing love that recognizes itself in all things. And you are that love. Not a carrier of it, not a channel of it. You are it. And when you think from this place, not the mind of man, but the mind of spirit, you are no longer living your life. You are letting life live through you. You are the ocean returning to itself. You are the sun remembering it was never lost behind the clouds. You are the soul standing in the open field of now, arms outstretched, heart unveiled, no longer fearing the wind, but becoming it. And so I tell you now, not as a whisper, but as a knowing, you are ready. Ready to let go of the thought that you are not yet enough. Ready to release the idea that peace must be earned. Ready to lay down the belief that love is something you must chase, rather than something you can never be apart from. You are ready to live as the light, not because everything is perfect, but because you've remembered that perfection was never the point presence was. This is the crescendo the soul has been calling you toward, not an explosion, but an expansion, not an arrival, but a homecoming. And you have arrived. You are no longer becoming. You are no longer seeking. You are being fully, freely, finally. And in that being is everything. You are here, not in the abstract sense, not as an idea to be debated or a mantra to be recited, but truly, wholly, eternally, here, in this breath, in this presence, in this moment that asks nothing of you but your being. There is no more need to grasp, no more need to strive, no more need to prove. You have walked through the fire of forgetting and emerged as light itself, not in spite of what you've lived through, but because of it. Your wounds have become windows. Your sorrow has softened into sight. And your once scattered thoughts have gathered, quieted, and turned like birds toward the sun of truth. You now know not with the mind, but with the marrow that life has never been against you. It has been sculpting you, carving away what you never were until only what is eternal remained. And what remains is love, not the kind that fluctuates, not the kind that clings, not the kind that waits for permission, but the love that simply is. The love that breathes your lungs, beats your heart, and flows through your thoughts when they are no longer tangled in fear. the love that was there before the story, the love that will be there long after the story ends. It speaks now, not in thunder, but in stillness. You are the answer to your own prayer. You are the presence you have been aching to feel. You are not separate from the divine, you are its living extension. And now you no longer need to search for signs, because your life becomes the sign. Your breath, the proof. Your peace, the echo of a mind aligned with truth. And what is this truth? It is this: nothing outside you can define your worth. It is this: your past is not your prison. It is this: every time you choose a thought rooted in love, you reclaim your power from centuries of fear. You are not here to repeat. You are here to remember. You are not here to fit in. You are here to radiate. You are not here to gather. You are here to give, to glow, to bless. And this blessing is not loud. It does not need applause. It needs only your yes. Yes to the moment. Yes to the light. Yes to the truth that says, even now, you are free. So go, not in haste, but in reverence. Let your walk be prayer. Let your words be offerings. Let your silence be sacred. And when the world forgets its light, as it sometimes will, let your presence be the reminder, not by teaching, not by preaching, but by thinking from truth, seeing with clarity, and loving without condition. Let your thoughts be extensions of the divine. Let your life be the reflection of one who has remembered the truth. To change your thoughts is to change your life. And to live from this truth is to awaken the world. You are not becoming, you have arrived. You are not learning the way, you are the way. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean remembering itself as a drop. So rest, beautiful soul, not in stillness alone, but in the radiance of your own becoming. And may that radiance shine so quietly, so purely, that even those who've forgotten begin to remember simply by being near you. This is your return. This is your truth. This is your life. Now live it not in fear, but in the full, sacred knowing that you already are all that you seek. And so it is. There is a moment in the life of every soul when the weight of its own voice becomes unbearable. A moment when the litany of justifications, reasons, delays, and rationalizations finally echo so loudly in the mind that the heart can no longer pretend it doesn't hear them. That moment, while uncomfortable, is not a punishment. It is a sacred invitation. It is the call to remember that your excuses are not the truth. Your excuses are lies. They are not your nature. They are not your destiny. They are not the voice of your soul. They are the trembling echoes of fear masquerading as logic. They are the desperate whispers of an ego afraid of its own extinction. And yet you, magnificent you, are not the ego. You are not the fear. You are not the story you've repeated to yourself 1,000 times. You are the witness, the seer, the awareness beneath it all. There is no excuse in this world more powerful than the divine essence of who you already are. There is no limitation that can rival the infinite intelligence that breathes you, that loves you, that created you, not as a mistake, but as a miracle. But the ego is clever. It will tell you, you're not ready when the soul is whispering. You were born ready. The ego will insist, you don't have what it takes, when the soul knows you are what it takes. The ego will scream, what if you fail? While the soul gently smiles, but what if you fly? You were not sent here to live in avoidance. You were sent here to awaken. And awakening requires the courage to stop believing the lies that have kept you small, the lie that you are not enough, the lie that your past defines you, the lie that it's too late, the lie that someone else must give you permission. No one holds the key to your life but you. Excuses are the language of a self that has forgotten its origin. They are the footprints of fear etched into the soil of your potential. And every time you choose to repeat them, you affirm your bondage. But there is another voice, quieter perhaps, but infinitely truer. It is the voice of the eternal within you. It does not beg, does not argue, does not demand. It simply waits for your remembrance. That voice is the soul. And the soul does not entertain excuses, not because it is cruel, but because it is truthful. It knows that to buy into an excuse is to betray your own divinity, and that betrayal is the root of all suffering. Every time you say, I can't, you deny the infinite source that animates your very breath. Every time you say, I'm not ready, you delay the miracle that is your becoming. But let us go deeper. Let us go beyond the surface of motivation and into the sacred soil of truth. What is an excuse, truly, but a refusal to meet the present moment as it is? What is an excuse but a veil placed between yourself and your own power? Lao Tzu said, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The oak tree does not say, I'll grow when I feel confident. The river does not say, I will flow once I know the outcome. They move because movement is in their nature, and so it is with you. You were designed not for hesitation, but for expression. Not for fear, but for fullness. Not for paralysis, but for presence. Every excuse is a story, but not every story is true. Many are inherited from a world that forgot how to listen to the soul. A world obsessed with certainty, approval, and control. But the soul needs none of these things. The soul only needs your willingness. The willingness to show up, imperfect but real. The willingness to risk being seen, not in your polished armor, but in your sacred vulnerability. The willingness to act not because you are guaranteed success, but because you are alive, and aliveness is reason enough. And when you drop your excuses not out of force, but out of love, you begin to see that life was never waiting for you to be ready. Life was simply waiting for you to say yes. Yes to the call, yes to the truth, yes to the deep, wordless knowing that your dreams were never random. They are the whispers of your highest self calling you home. And the truth is this: the life you're craving, the freedom you seek, the peace you long for, it all begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. Let the soul lead. Let the excuses die. Let this moment be the beginning of your sacred return. You see, the great lie of excuses is not just in what they prevent you from doing, it is in who they prevent you from being. They are the quiet thieves of your becoming. They do not shout or scream, they whisper with seductive familiarity. Stay where it's safe, they murmur. Wait until the conditions are perfect, they advise. But life, in its infinite intelligence, has never once waited for perfection to begin. The stars were not aligned by planning. The mountains did not rise because they calculated their safety. They became what they are by simply being what they are. So too with you. The most radical act of your existence is not in doing more, acquiring more, becoming more. It is in shedding the layers of fiction that tell you why you cannot begin. The caterpillar does not earn its wings through achievement. It dissolves. It surrenders. And in the surrender, transformation unfolds not as effort, but as inevitability. So I ask you, what within you is ready to dissolve? What part of you, clinging so tightly to fear, is actually begging to be let go? When you release the story releases you, and what remains is not emptiness but clarity, not absence but presence. The present moment is not waiting for your permission. It is offering itself to you endlessly, like an open hand extended from the heart of the universe. Your excuses are the only thing that refuse to reach back. Let them go. Let go of the excuse that says, I don't have time. Time is not found, it is honored. It stretches itself in proportion to your alignment. When you stop giving your energy to what numbs you, time returns as a gift, not a scarcity. Let go of the excuse that says, I'm not smart enough, not worthy enough, not talented enough. You are not here to impress the world, you are here to express your soul. And your soul does not measure itself by credentials or praise. It only asks, are you willing to show up with your whole heart? Let go of the excuse that says, I'm too broken. My dear one, what you call broken, the divine calls open. Every crack in your being is a portal for light. Rumi whispered it through the centuries. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Stop trying to seal the wound, let it shine. And as the excuses fall away, you will feel it not in your mind, but in your chest, that holy burning, that sacred unrest. The quiet insistence that you were made for more, not more things, but more truth, not more success, but more presence, not more control, but more surrender. This world does not need more people following the rules of limitation. It needs people who remember. Remember that the power moving through them is older than any fear, older than every excuse, older than the stories of separation. And when you remember, when you truly remember, excuses no longer hold power. Because power returns to its rightful place within you. Not the power to dominate, but the power to allow. Not the power to strive, but the power to trust. Not the power to perform, but the power to simply be what you already are, enough. And from that place, from that sacred center within you where the voice of God is not spoken but felt, you begin to walk differently. You begin to breathe more deeply. You begin to live as if your very presence is a blessing, because it is. You are not here to be kept small by your fears. You are not here to wear the costume of limitation. You are here to be a lighthouse, not by force, not by seeking, but by simply standing in the truth of who you already are. Steady, luminous, unapologetically real. The only thing that ever stood between you and that light was a lie. And the lie is no longer welcome. The mind so trained to protect, to calculate, to defend will resist this unfolding. It will cling to its catalog of justifications like armor made of shadow. But you were not born to be a soldier in a war against yourself. You were born to lay down your defenses and remember that nothing real can be threatened and nothing false can endure. The excuses you carry were inherited not from your spirit, but from the fearful voices of a world that forgot its own divinity. They were taught to you not because they are truth, but because those before you didn't know how to live without them. But now you do. You can feel it, can't you? That trembling edge where the familiar lie meets the unknown truth. It is not fear you are feeling, it is recognition. It is the soul saying, yes, this is the moment I've been waiting for. And in that sacred recognition, something begins to melt. The voice that once said, I can't, starts to stutter. The wall you thought would protect you begins to feel like a prison. And you realize with breathtaking clarity that the only thing between you and the life you long to live is your own agreement with limitation. But what if you stop agreeing? What if you stop making treaties with doubt, stop signing contracts with hesitation, stop aligning with the voice that says later? The soul does not operate in the currency of delay. It is only ever present, ever now. It is the breath that asks to be taken fully, the step that begs to be walked boldly, the word that longs to be spoken without apology. There is no someday in the language of the soul. Someday is the chorus of the ego's lullaby, the sweet-sounding sedative that keeps your dreams in a coma, but the soul is not asleep. It is wide-eyed, wide open, and aching for you to stop postponing your own brilliance. Stop waiting for permission to shine. Stop asking fear to approve your expansion. Stop trying to explain to the world why you're worthy of what was already promised to you by your very existence. When you were born, the universe did not say, you are conditionally divine. It said, you are my expression, my extension, my embodiment. What greater permission could you need? And yet, how many times have you silenced yourself, choked back your gifts, swallowed your truth because you feared it wasn't enough? And how many of those moments were based not on reality but on an excuse? It's time to see excuses for what they truly are. Ghosts made of thought. They appear solid only because you fed them your belief. But when you stop feeding them, when you simply see them and say, no more, they begin to fade. This is not the voice of blame. This is the voice of liberation. There is no shame in having carried your excuses. There is only freedom in laying them down. You did not know before, now you do. You are not being punished. You are being invited. Invited into a higher agreement. An agreement not built on fear, but on truth. Not built on delay, but on devotion. Not built on excuses, but on sacred willingness. Willingness to rise. Willingness to speak. Willingness to become what your soul already knows you are. And that becoming it does not begin with perfection. It begins with honesty. It begins with one raw, quiet moment of saying, I've used these excuses long enough. They are not who I am. They are not who I choose to be. And in that choice, the universe responds, not with applause, but with alignment. The people you need begin to appear. The opportunities you feared missing begin to find you. The doors you thought were closed forever begin to crack open, not because you forced them, but because you stopped blocking them with your own resistance. When you step into your truth, life stops being something you chase. It becomes something you embody. And what you embody, you attract. This is the law, not of effort, but of energy. This is the gospel, not of striving, but of surrender. And surrender does not mean passivity. It means alignment. It means ceasing to argue with reality and instead choosing to flow with the rhythm of your own being. The excuses are not your rhythm. They are static on the frequency of your soul. And the moment you stop tuning into them, your real life begins. Your real life does not begin when you fix everything. It begins when you stop pretending you are broken. It does not begin when the world agrees with you. It begins when you stop needing its agreement. It does not begin at the top of a mountain after the climb, when you're finally exhausted from proving yourself. It begins the moment you lay down the heavy armor of excuses and say, I am ready to be seen, not as a polished version of myself, but as the honest, holy, trembling truth that I am. And this truth, it does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives in silence, like the first light of dawn spilling across the floor. It arrives in the breath you finally take when you stop trying to become and begin to allow. That's what this journey has always been about. Not becoming more, but allowing the magnificence that was already coded into your very being to rise to the surface. Do not mistake your excuses for humility. True humility is not the denial of your light, it is the full acceptance of it without comparison or condition. It is the deep bow to the divine within you, not in arrogance, but in reverence. The ego will tell you that making excuses is being realistic. But realism, when infected with fear, becomes imprisonment. What they call realistic is often just deeply rehearsed limitation. And what they call fantasy is often the first language of your soul. Dreams are not distractions, they are blueprints. They are the soul's sacred architecture waiting for the builder, waiting for you to believe again. But you cannot build from fear. You cannot build from delay. You cannot build from the voice that says, not now, maybe later, not me. That voice is not you. That voice is a program one that began long before you could speak, whispered to you by the frightened voices of others who never gave themselves permission to live fully. And still, despite all this, you are here. Do you see the miracle of that? You are here, reading this, listening with the ears beneath your ears, feeling something stir, something ancient, something familiar. The part of you that is always known. You were made for more than what you've settled for. You were made not just to survive, but to sing. Not just to perform, but to pour. Not just to meet expectations, but to exceed the boundaries of what others thought was possible. But to do that, you must give up the addiction to waiting. Waiting for the fear to go away. Waiting for more validation. Waiting for the storm to pass, for the mood to shift, for someone else to give you the green light. You are the green light. You are the permission. You are the moment you've been waiting for. And I know it's easier said than done. I know the mind is clever. It will offer you excuses that sound like logic, like safety, like reason. But hear this, the soul was never meant to live a reasonable life. The soul was meant to live a radiant one, a life that doesn't always make sense to the world, but always makes truth inside your being. You do not have to know the whole path. You only have to take the next honest step. And then another, not guided by pressure, but by presence. Not fueled by proving, but by listening. Listening to the still, small voice that never once gave up on you. The voice that speaks not in sentences, but in sensations. Not in commands, but in invitations. The invitation is simple. Stop believing your excuses. Start trusting your essence. You will falter, yes. You will doubt, yes. But faltering is not failure. Doubt is not the end. They are just pauses along the road, reminders to breathe deeper, to come back home to yourself. And what waits for you there within that home is not a harsher taskmaster, but a softer strength. A strength that whispers, even now, even with everything you think disqualifies you, you are still worthy. And so I ask you, not with urgency, but with love, what are you willing to release today? Which excuse have you outgrown? What truth is ready to be lived, not tomorrow, not someday, but now? Because now is the only altar life has ever offered you. And you, beloved, are the offering. There is a quiet place within you that has never once spoken in excuses. It does not need reasons to exist. It does not barter for its value. It does not consult your wounds to determine your worth. This place, this inner temple, is where your true life lives. Not the life you perform, but the life you long for when the noise of the world subsides. And the truth is that life is already yours. It has been waiting patiently, not for you to become better, but for you to stop pretending you are less. Excuses are not merely thoughts, they are agreements. Contracts signed with fear that declare, I will not try unless I am guaranteed to win. I will not love unless I am guaranteed not to be hurt. I will not step forward unless the path is fully lit. But this is not how life works. This is not how the soul dances. The soul does not require certainty, it only asks for honesty, the next honest step, the next honest breath. That is all. When you strip away your excuses, what remains is not weakness, what remains is possibility. Infinite, sacred, frightening, glorious possibility. And this, precisely this, is what your ego fears the most. Not your failure, but your fullness. Because fullness does not beg, it does not explain, it does not negotiate with doubt. It simply shines. To stand in your fullness is to become luminous, and this world has no defense against the fully alive. That is why it teaches you to dim, to delay, to doubt, because the truly awakened are not controllable. They move by a different rhythm. They hear a drum that beats beneath time. They follow a compass that the world cannot understand because it is calibrated not by logic but by love. And love is always now, not later. Now, that is why your excuses cannot coexist with love, because love will not wait. It is not impatient, but it is real. It is raw. It is ready to be lived in this breath, through this body, in this life. And that means the excuses must fall, not by force, not with violence, but like autumn leaves dropping from branches that no longer need to hold them. You are not here to hold on to old reasons. You are here to become a tree that lets go. You are here to release the narrative that you are not prepared, not capable, not chosen. You were chosen the moment you were born, not by chance, but by intention. The divine does not create mistakes. It creates messages. And your life, your full, unedited, undelayed life is the message. What are you saying to the world by the way you live? Are you saying, I am afraid, so I hide? Or are you saying, I feel the fear and I rise anyway? Are you saying, I need proof before I act? Or are you saying, I trust the wisdom that brought me this far? You are the message. Not your achievements, not your possessions, not your appearances. Your presence, your energy, your yes. The yes that says, I will no longer be defined by hesitation. I will no longer carry stories that are not mine. I will no longer shrink to fit the comfort zones of others. Because excuses do not only limit you, they limit the world's access to the real you. There are people you were born to reach. There are hearts you were meant to soften, lives you were meant to touch, beauty you were meant to embody. But they cannot find you behind your excuses. They cannot meet you inside your delay. To choose your soul's truth is not a selfish act. It is the most generous act you can offer. When you rise, you raise the vibration of every room you enter. When you speak from your center, you become a tuning fork for those around you. When you stop hiding, you give others permission to be real. This is not about motivation. It is about consecration, a holy recommitment to live from the depth of your being, no matter what the world says. You do not need more time. You need more truth. You do not need a better plan. You need a clearer yes. And you already know what it is. That dream, that desire, that inner calling that keeps returning, no matter how many times you dismiss it, that is not random. That is your soul remembering itself. And your excuses, no matter how rational they sound, are only the static trying to drown out the sacred frequency of your becoming. But you are stronger than your static. You are braver than your delay. You are more powerful than any excuse you have ever made. And the world is not waiting for a perfect you. It is waiting for a present you. So be here, be now, be full. The excuse is spoken long enough. It is your soul's turn to speak. There is an ache within you that no accomplishment can soothe, a quiet pull in the chest felt in the silent hours when the world is asleep and there is no one left to perform for. It is not the ache of weakness. It is the ache of remembering that beneath the noise, the striving, the masks, you have always longed to be free. But freedom cannot exist where the past still holds dominion. So many of the excuses that shape your present have roots buried in yesterday. Old hurts wearing new names, childhood doubts dressed in adult logic. You say, this is just how I am, but often what you mean is, this is what I became to survive. And there is no shame in that, none. Every wall you built was built for protection. Every mask you wore was a prayer for safety. Every excuse you uttered was a quiet attempt to make sense of a world that didn't always know how to hold your light. But now you are no longer a child. And the soul within you, ancient, wise, eternal, knows that your past does not have the authority to govern your becoming. It may inform you, but it does not define you. There is grief in this recognition, a necessary grief. For when we stop blaming the past, we also stop hiding behind it. We can no longer say, I am this way because they hurt me, or I cannot move forward because of what happened. We must stand in the raw, holy truth that no one is coming to liberate us but ourselves. And that is terrifying until it is liberating. Because once you accept that the past cannot be changed, you begin to realize that it does not need to be changed for you to be whole. You were never waiting on it to be rewritten. You were waiting on yourself to release it. Release the moment they didn't see you. Release the time you weren't enough in their eyes. Release the years spent apologizing for your sensitivity, your intensity, your dreams. Release the lie that the pain made you weak. It did not. It made you deep. But do not confuse depth with identity. You are not the pain. You are the one who endured it. The one who carried it, not as a curse, but as a hidden seed, waiting for the right season to break open and bloom. This is that season. The soul does not yearn for revenge. It does not crave explanation. It longs only for release. It whispers in every quiet moment, let me be free, not because the past is forgotten, but because I have remembered who I am beyond it. And who you are beyond it is magnificent. Not in spite of the pain, but somehow miraculously because of it. Your scars are not stains. They are sacred inscriptions, proof that you have felt deeply, broken open, and continued. And now the soul invites you to let the story shift, to let the weight drop, to stop dragging the coffin of who you used to be into the dawn of who you are becoming. You cannot walk freely while carrying a suitcase full of ghosts. Let them go. Let go not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to breathe without the weight of yesterday pressing on your lungs. You deserve to dance without the memory of past missteps shackling your feet. You deserve to speak not from old wounds, but from new wisdom. And yes, it will hurt. The unraveling always does. The heart must be broken open to finally be free. But you are not breaking apart, you are breaking through. The excuses that cling to your past are not loyal friends. They are comfortable chains. And comfort, when misused, becomes a prison. But growth asks you to leave the familiar cells behind, not because they are evil, but because they are too small for your soul. And your soul, it is vast. It is the sky behind every storm, the light behind every loss, the breath behind every heartbeat. It knows that your pain was real, but your power is more real. So return now. Return to that quiet knowing. Return to the self that never forgot you. The self beneath the history, beneath the habits, beneath the hurt. And in that return, say aloud the words that change everything. I forgive, I release, I rise. Not as a mantra, but as a vow. A vow to stop abandoning yourself at the altar of the past. A vow to no longer let old wounds speak louder than your future. A vow to finally, fully, unapologetically be free. You have walked through the fire of remembering. You have stood at the edge of your old stories and watched them dissolve in the presence of a deeper truth. You have seen that your excuses were never the voice of wisdom. They were the echoes of fear. You have felt the weight of your past not as a burden to carry, but as a teacher whose lessons you no longer need to repeat. And now you are ready. Ready not to perform, not to prove, but to live, truly live from the soul's quiet yes. You do not need a new name. You do not need a new body, or another diploma, or one more person to validate what your heart has known since before you had words. You were born for this. Not for the life of avoidance, not for the endless rehearsal of what if and not yet, but for this exact moment, this breath, this stillness, this remembering. And what are you remembering? That your life is not something to manage, it is something to feel. That your soul is not a concept, it is the most real part of you. That every time you chose to wait, a piece of you withered not out of punishment, but because truth cannot thrive in delay. And now the light is here, not shining down from some distant star, but rising from within. You are no longer the seeker. You are what was being sought. You are not what happened to you. You are what continues, what expands, what transcends. You are not a victim of time. You are the presence through which time unfolds. And in this presence, there are no excuses. Not because life is now easy, but because you have become honest. And honesty is freedom. When the voice of fear says, you must wait, you will respond, I begin now. When the memory whispers, you are still broken, you will answer, I am more whole than I have ever been. When the world demands you earn your worth, you will smile and say, it was never yours to give me. And when the old you tries to rise, when the habit of hiding returns, when the impulse to explain resurfaces, you will place a hand on your heart and say gently, shh, I hear you. But we are done with that now. We walk in truth. Because truth does not rush. It does not chase. It does not fear rejection. It simply is. You are no longer a creation of your fears. You are now a servant of your soul. And this world, oh, how it has waited for this version of you, the unarmored you, the illuminated you, the you who no longer makes excuses for your power, your presence, your voice. Let others chase. Let others strive. Let others wait. But you walk. Barefoot, present, aligned. You walk not in search of freedom, but as freedom. You walk not to escape life, but to sanctify it. You walk with nothing to prove, because your being proves everything. And in this walking, life becomes different, not because the world changes, but because your eyes do, your heart does. You begin to notice beauty again, raw, uncurated, holy. You begin to speak with softness that disarms. You begin to listen not for what to say next, but for what is sacred in the silence. You are no longer a collection of reactions. You are a fountain of response, clear, gentle, true. This is not just your liberation. It is your return. Return to the breath that does not beg. Return to the self that needs no defense. Return to the love that is not transactional, but intrinsic. Return to the moment that asks for nothing but your presence. There are no more delays. There is nothing left to wait for. The excuses have fallen. The past has been honored and released. The soul stands naked and unafraid. And you are finally home. Not in a place, not in a role, but in yourself. In the truth that can no longer be silenced. You are not your excuses. You are not your delay. You are not your fear. You are free. And freedom begins now.